This is the first of a series of videos related to the concept of discrete probability distribution. To understand this concept, it will be a good idea to start from the concept of random variables. The definition of a random variable involves three concepts. First, it needs to be a numerical variable. If we have a random variable, we also need this random variable need to be numerical. It must be an association, and this association will be from the elementary events of a random experiment. So we need to have a random experiment. The association must be in some special way, in the way that for each of the possible elementary events, or for each of the possible outcome of this random experiment, we need to assign a number. Obviously, assigning these numbers, we are going to obtain a numerical variable. And this variable that we obtain, we are going to be represented maybe always from capital letters. Could be the letter X, Y, and Z that are the most usual. But whatever other letter could be okay. So for example, if the random experiment is the known this tossing a coin, if we toss a coin, so we know that we obtain a sample space that will be like this. It has two possible outcomes, two possible elementary events. For each of these elementary events, we associate a number, then we obtain a numerical variable. So the creation of this numerical variable, it allowed me to obtain a random variable. So whatever association will be okay. For example, if we associate number 1 to head, and for a tail we associate number 0, then we obtain a variable that have two values, 1 and 0. And this will be a random variable. But whatever other association from real life, for example, we can do this association. For example, when we are gambling, we can say that we win if we obtain a head, and we lose if we obtain a 5. If we do this, we are making an association. We are associating number 5 to head and number -5 to tail. So, and we have obtained a variable. And this variable can be represented with the capital letter X. And this variable have two numbers, and these two numbers have been obtained from the association. From the association that we get from a head, we have associated number 5, and from the tail, we have associated number -5. So the name of the variable will be the association. For example, we can say that the variable X is the payoff. Okay? So that we obtain when we are gambling. So because the payoff gives me these two numbers. And if we want to represent each of these values, well, we can use small letters X, Y, and Z. For example, for the value 5, I can use the letter small x. So the small letters are usually or useful to represent a value of the random variable that is represented with the capital letter. So in this case, we have a random variable with two values. The x can be useful to represent 5 or to represent -5, whatever. Why can you use this 5 to represent with x and the other with the small y, whatever. But because what we have obtained is a discrete number of values, then we say that we have a discrete random variable in this case. There is another possible example of a discrete random variable will be one obtained from this experiment, not tossing one coin, tossing 3 coins. If we toss 3 coins, now the sample space will be different, because one possible outcomes will be this one, that you obtain in all the 3 coins a tail. So we be tails in the first coin, tails in the second coin, and tails in the third coins. But this is not the only value that the only possible outcome that we can obtain. Yeah? We can obtain more outcomes if we want to know how many outcomes we can obtain from these sample experiments. You see of how many ways can be obtained, or how many outcomes when we toss only one coin. There are two outcomes. Yeah, if this can happen of only two possible ways, and this can happen of two possible ways, and the third coin also can happen of two possible ways. To know how many possible ways in total we can obtain, we can multiply 2 times 2 times 2 equal 8. This sample space will have 8 possible outcomes. Yes, another possible outcome will be, for example, the first is a head, the first coin is a tail, the second also a tail, and the next one a head. So this is another possible outcome. Or maybe the head is in the second coin. Only one head, but the head is in the second coin. So another possible outcome will be like this. We obtain tail, head, and tail. Or maybe the head is at the beginning, yes, in the first coin, and the other two heads. Or maybe there are two heads, or maybe three heads. So all the possible outcomes are like this. There are three possible outcomes when you have only one head, three possible outcomes that have only one tail, and there is one outcome with three heads. Yeah? If we associate to each of these outcomes a number, then we are creating a random variable. My association, I think, will be we associate the number of hex, for example. If we associate the number of hex, for this outcome we associate number 0, yes? Or for this outcome we associate number 1, etc. Obviously, we can associate, for example, $5 for each tail. So if we associate $5 for each tail to this outcome, we associate number 15, etc. But let's see with the first situation, we associate the number of hex. So this will be our association. If we do this association, associate number to each of these variables, to each of these outcome, we have obtained a variable, and will be a random variable. So the random variable will have this possible value, yes, 0, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 is the maximum number that we can assign to this random variable, yeah, because will be assigned to this outcome when we have obtained 3 hex. So for this outcome we associate number 0, for sure, yeah. So this is number 0, there are 0 hex, and for these 3 outcome, for each of them we associate number 1, yeah. So you see that maybe there are different outcomes that have the same number, or have been associated the same number, yeah. For this, and for this we associate number 1 because there is one head, and for this we associate number 2 for these 3 outcomes, and for this one we associate number 3. So again here we have an example of a discrete random variable, because in each interval of real values we obtain a finite number of values. For example, in the interval 0, 1, in the closed interval 0, 1, we have 2 values. Or in the interval 0, 3, we have 4 values. Yeah? But always it's a finite number of values that we obtain in an interval. If that is the case, we have a discrete random variable, and the letter x can be useful to represent the number 0 or 1 or 2 or 3, the small x, but the capital X will be for the random variable, or the capital Y or the capital Z, whatever letter you want to choose to represent this random variable. And the name, when we are speaking of this random variable, will be the number of heads. So the association gives me the number of this random variable. Okay, this concludes my explanation of what is a random variable. So in other presentations, we are going to have more information of random variable and what type of random variable we can have. We also can see examples of random variables. Okay, thank you.